Getting change without the big stuff. It's all about the micro. The Military Money Show is sponsored by Charles Schwab. Since 1973, Charles Schwab has been helping people achieve better financial outcomes for themselves and their families. You can learn more about Charles Schwab and the work they do at schwab.com. Hey, welcome to the Military Money Show, where I help the military community make, save, and invest money wisely. I'm your host, Lacey Langford, the military money expert. It can be overwhelming when you're trying to take charge and make some positive change in your life. Just taking the first step can be daunting. I have some good news though. You can always start small. My guest, Dan Mangena, built a 4-step system called Beyond Intention Paradigm after experiencing life-shattering trauma. Through his own struggles, Dan found a path to lasting joy and purpose, and he wants to share those tools. Dan is an author, coach, and motivational speaker who helps others with empowerment and joy. His work recently earned him a spot in the Wall Street Journal as a master of success. Dan and I discuss how making small and simple steps to improve one's life can lead to some big changes. Here is my chat with Dan. Hey, Dan, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. Excited for the fun games that we're going to play today.
Yes, you never know what you're going to get on the Military Money Show.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, but we're good.
Well, I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. I kind of want to start it off with, if you could tell everybody and me, because I don't know your full story, you've gone through some things in life that you've overcome. And I want to know if you could tell us a little bit about that as like a jumping off point about what we're going to get into.
I got into personal development and mindfulness and esoterics and manifestation really young. Really came from my disillusion from growing up in a very conservative, very strict Christian household and stuff not really making sense, but knowing that there was something there to make sense. So I went on a journey of study that started about the age of 16. So that means that I've had like 20 odd years experience with all of this stuff. And what ended up happening was I was very successful with it. I managed to make, but then lose 2 multi-million-pound fortunes by the age of 24. Unfortunately, what happened at that point was, though, I was like, okay, have I been deluded? Should I have just finished my degree, stayed at church every week, been a deacon or an elder, married that girl mum would have liked me to marry, had a couple of kids, and got off of my original plan to be an investment banker or something? I was like, have I been deluded? Because here I am looking at the aftermath of everything kind of going to crap. I went back and started another business and I built up from scratch. I was working in a call center for minimum wage from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock at night. Whilst I built up my business, I got that up to 7 figures a year with me and my partners. I took on partners and it was doing really well. I got diagnosed with Asperger's quite late on in life. I was 27 years old when I was diagnosed with Asperger's. Believe it or not, that diagnosis was a gift because I learned what my superpowers were and was able to tap and access those to create a life that I loved, seeing that there's something more than just living a life you love, and that's teaching other people to do the same. And that's where we are right now.
I think losing money probably was very stressful. What made you start finding this information?
It wasn't the loss of the money. It was the failure. That was what it was, because it was very, very public failure.
Those are the worst kind, by the way. Like, yeah.
And, I had arrogantly, doggedly said, this is the way you do things. I really thought I cracked the code. And up until that time, part 1 of the trilogy, I was an arrogant little twat. I was like, I know everything. I've got this. Even when I lost everything the first time, I was like, I'll just do it again. I just kind of cockily went out and I did do it. But there were critical mistakes from not having the right counsel, not having life experience. I was young. I hadn't faced enough adversity to really have life lessons to really know how to get things done. I didn't know the importance of mentorship, the importance of coaching. Now I do, right? I understand now that it's important to have the right team around you, the right people supporting you. I didn't know any of that. People had told me, but I told them, I don't need you. I've got this. Do you know who I am? I've been studying this stuff for a long time. That was like the shame of all of that. It was really shame more than anything else, not loss of money. It was the shame and the ugliness of it. That's where I was. And I really wanted to just find out what had gone wrong, because it had worked, but then it just stopped working. So I knew that there was some power to it, but something was broken. And I wanted to fix what was broken just so I could just kind of quietly fade away. And maybe people would forget that I existed. And I just wanted to get away from the shame of everything that had gone wrong.
I love that you pointed out about the value of guidance from other people. Cause I think I was that same way. Like, oh, I know how to do it. And I think, I don't know if mine was out of being big for my britches, but more like, I don't need help. Like I can do it all by myself. I'll do it and I don't want to count on anybody. But really, I think growing in life and in business, having people that have been there before you is not just about they know more than you. It's actually they can solve the problem quicker. It took them 20 years to be able to answer your question in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
And do you know what? There's something to be said for it was really triggered by me actually recognizing that everything that I've been through brought me to a place where I could actually enjoy the beauty of actually witnessing people not needing to go through all of that. There's something from holding someone's hand and supporting them in doing something beautiful and adding to the world and sharing their gifts. And I get to be a part of that every day now. And I got the taste of what that would be. But the power piece was recognizing that I get to do that because of everything I've been through. And so other people get that shortcut. And that, again, has really empowered me to kind of look for other people's shortcuts too, so that I can shorten that 20 years down to 2 minutes, like you said. But it does require humility. It does require being open. And I just didn't have that before. Now I do.
I love that. I love that you're saying all that because I know that maybe your story in this journey, but helping people get along and just telling the story. Like you were just being so open and honest that you were, a little arrogant about some things about life.
a lot arrogant, not a little bit, a lot.
Yes. But it's great that you could tell those stories to other people. I do that. Like when I mentor people to say like all the embarrassing stuff, like building my business, everything I've gone, like, I'm not where I'm at because it was easy or it wasn't embarrassing. Like I can think of like 5 super embarrassing stories, like just off the top of my head.
I'm with you on that one.
Yes. And so being able to say like, hey, oh man, you're going to feel this way. It's going to suck. I like to tell people like, you're not alone. Just so you know, that embarrassment, that frustration, that wanting to give up or quit, like, hey, there's been people before you, there'll be people after you, like that. And we're just going to keep passing it down the line. So I think that's wonderful. So when you start on this journey, you're finding positive information, which I am really into positivity to the point of being annoying with it. I tell my family every morning, steer your ship with positivity. And they are not fans of the same. But now it's just tradition. I don't want to break tradition now with them walking out the door. So
the ship is coming through.
Yes.
Steer it. Yes. Positivity.
Yes. I should get like pom-poms or like streamers, like to.
They are required. I don't know why you
pull them out of the
already.
Kitchen drawer, like when they're going out the door. I feel like my husband would cut them up.
Okay. Don't do that.
Yes. Well, so I want to talk about microshifting. This is something that you talk about. What is it and why do you recommend it to everybody? I'm very curious about this because I'm all about baby steps. So I'm wondering if it's like baby steps.
It's baby steps on very small doses of steroids because we're talking about microshifting. So I define microshifting as a consistent series of baby steps made in the direction of a consciously chosen outcome. It brings to baby steps the idea of intentionality, consistency. There's compound effecting there. I throw in celebration and also another concept I talk about called minimum deliverables. And the reason why minimum deliverables are so powerful is because it cuts through the noise, it cuts through any resistance, it cuts through any procrastination, because it's asking myself, what is one thing I can do, no matter how small, that takes me and even the smallest iota in the direction of where I'm going? Because momentum, no matter how minute, actually takes us in the direction of where we want to go. And I think sometimes we have the take massive action and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, great. Thumbs up. Everybody can take micro shifts. Everybody can take baby steps. Everybody can take a step, no matter how small. An example I love to share is, a guy who was procrastinating with starting a business. And the minimum deliverable that he started with was buying a journal. What do you mean buy a journal? What's that got to do with? Well, we had him buy a journal. I had him put the journal by his bed. I had him put a pen by the journal. I had him open the journal each morning, not even write anything. Now, all of these steps are building momentum, because the thing is, every time he does this action, he makes a commitment to himself and follows it through. He celebrates as if he started his business. So what he's actually doing is now starting to connect chemicals and hormones in his body with the success of the final outcome and visualizing the final outcome, but only taking this little step. Now, he doesn't have to stop there. And what ends up happening is that momentum starts to build its own gain. So he doesn't just open the journal, he does some journaling. But I say the minimum deliverable. All you have to do is write one word about how you felt today around your business or starting the business. And that became finding out what's wrong. Now journal about where the blockages are. That opened up the space for him to actually realize that he brought so much awareness to it and he built so much momentum that now he's got his podcast, now he's got his coaching business, now he's put out 2 books. And all of that started with him just buying a journal. But that was the critical point of turning the rudder and steering him in the direction of the outcome that he actually wanted for himself.
What is the deliverable though? Like I get, is that the deliverable, like that small action?
That small action. So minimum deliverable is no matter how small, it's anything that I can do without resistance. Now, that might seem really small. Like I said, it was just getting the journal. It was just putting that by his bed. It was just putting a pen by it. It was writing one word. But that's something that he could do without resistance. But he was doing it consistently. He connected that with the final outcome with visualization and celebration and consistently built up those steps until the momentum meant that everything took on a life of its own. The resistance disappeared. The procrastination disappeared because he had sufficient leverage over himself to connect to the outcome to not be met with the resistance on the way.
I totally agree with that because I do that. I think as like a business owner, you're the boss. So it's like, if you don't want to get out of bed today, like, if you don't have an appointment, like, and there are some bad days. There's some very frustrating days to like work constantly and then to be let down or for not to work out or, like so many negotiations, like all of this stuff. I have found like some days, when I've had a bad day the day before, it's my one deliverable is get up. Just get your feet on the floor. It's like, yeah. And then get up and then like make yourself breakfast, like start the day. Like, don't be hangry. You don't want to start your day like that. And so I do find myself talking myself into these micro steps to start taking action for the day. And I also use it with big projects where it's like, oh man, I got to start from scratch. I gotta figure it out. And I'm like, just turn on your computer.
Yeah,
that's it. And I'm like, open a Google Doc. Like we just got to start taking notes. And then I'm like, what's the one thing the accomplishment I want from this project, like the main goal. And I just usually put that at the top to help, and then I like take it from there. So I totally agree with you, but I never have thought about that. I really do break it down that small sometimes, not all the time, but when I really need to be motivated, that's what I tell myself, just get up, like get up. Especially because if you've had a bad day, it's like very tempting. Like, let's just go take a nap. Let's just let's lay down and just forget about it.
Just forget about it. We'll take care of this one later.
I'll wake up and it will just be magically gone. But no, it is not. It is not. So I do find though that I can then have a fresh eye if I step away from the problem for a minute or whatever. But
that does help, I think.
I think too, but that applies to, I think, finance, taking little steps to say, okay, hey, what's one thing I can do to improve my financial life? Well, don't get that extra credit card. Don't get the extra thing that you don't need at the store. Just like little stuff, like don't do it. Don't do it. That's your micro action. It's like, don't do it. Don't do it.
No.
Well, how can people start doing micro shifting? How can they start applying it to their life? And is it writing down a goal and then?
Definitely you need to know where you're going. I mean, all of this starts with intentionality, right? And then unless you've got an end result, an end outcome, you're going to be lost. And I think making sure that end goal, that end outcome is yours and not someone else's, because so much of our life is run on other people's stories. I remember when I first started coaching, first started, I was working with people in midlife crisis, because what I found was all that the midlife crisis was for a lot of people is that they came to an understanding that the life that they spent 15, 20 years putting their back into wasn't theirs. It was someone else's. It's what the family said or Hollywood said or whatever. And they were at this impasse where they didn't know how to create their own life. And so that's what we're doing, rebuilding their life script for them. And a lot of people find that. Some people get there sooner. Some are, is it millennials? How old's the millennials? I don't know. The ones that are
I
in
feel
college.
like I need a chart. Like, I don't know them all.
I don't know. Someone made that stuff up. But people that finishing education, they go in, they spend all that money going to all that debt, student debt, and then spin around and like, I don't even want to be this thing. I spoke to a guy yesterday and he disowned by his family because he walked away from medical school. But he's like, I don't want to be a medical doctor.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. This isn't what I want to do. As a result, he's now actually doing what he wants to do. Looking past cultural ideas, community ideas, media's projections about what you are supposed to be or what you're not allowed to be because, oh, you're too short, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that. And just connect with what you want. And then it's what's a step I can make in the direction of that without resistance, no matter how small. And just doing that on a consistent basis, whether it's daily, weekly, if you're really up against it, multiple times a day, if you're in a lot more flow. I've done that, celebrate it. What's the next thing I can do that takes me? Maybe the next thing I can do is take a break and then pick it up again tomorrow. But it's about some level of consistency that you can commit to, pushing your edge, but not your buttons.
I'm going to ask a question because I know I'm guilty of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and out myself now. How do you stop yourself from burnout on that? Because I do push myself very hard, like in life and business. And to me, it's like no slack in the rope. It's just like I have to I have to keep going. So how do you, keep, doing the micro shifting, but not get to the point where it's like, just want to quit because you try to do too many things?
I think, you've got to be in service to be of service. And if I'm burnt out, I'm not helping anyone. If I've been burning the candle at both ends to the point where I can't even offer my clients the best of me, what's the point? We've got a newborn. I've got my son's 2 months old. I can make up the excuse I'm doing it for his future all I want. But if it means I'm not present to be here for him today, what's the point? It's just remembering that at the end of the day, life is for living. And if I'm putting so much into these tasks, I'm not actually enjoying the experience of life, then what is the point? Oh, the delayed gratification of 20 years' time and blah, blah, blah. Life's going to be moved on. The people that you're doing it for aren't going to recognize you and you're not going to recognize them. Just remembering that and being more holistic in the approach of, yes, I have these goals and I have these objectives, but I also have this life. Are those working together in harmony? So again, I'm pushing my edge, but not my buttons so that I burn out and I'm not even present and available to enjoy or even to show up in my business or with my family, my relationship, and my friendships. That's what I think. Just bringing that level of awareness is really powerful.
I think that you bringing up the point of midlife crisis is really important because people do take a pause and look back and think like, why didn't I go for that one thing I was interested in after high school or college or before I got married, before I had kids? And it can be frustrating to look back. And then that's a lot of times why people uproot their life, and cause like some trauma, some drama, and a bunch of other stuff, and maybe spend more. I have a friend that makes this joke. I think it's hilarious because it's somewhat true, but her husband bought this huge fish tank. I mean, it had to have been $10,000, just
Wow.
huge. Yeah. I don't really understand spending $10,000 on a fish tank, but I also am a firm believer, to each their own. You made the money, spend it how you want.
Exactly. Live your life, bro.
Yes, but feed the fish, whatever you want to do. But when the first time I came into her house, she's like, this is my husband's midlife crisis. She's like, I'm happy it was the fish tank and not a new girlfriend. And it was like so true. But she's like, I want him. If this is what he wants right now, like, go for it, dude. Get a fish tank.
get this fish out of your system. This is anything, any more fish? Would you like a motorbike?
Right. Yes. It's like, what else? Or do you have any other hobbies you'd like to pick up? Like, yes, let's support
don't include infidelity. Let's keep that one off the
yes, let's support the healthier midlife crisis. But it's so true that it's, if you don't really enjoy it, and I guess this comes down to balance, to kind of go after the things that you want that interest you. And I do that with my children now, my sons, to say like, hey, you want to learn how to do that? Let's try it. Yeah, we're not going to get you the brand new equipment for it, but
you can try. We can certainly rent some.
Rent or get something used. And then if you like it, then we'll take it, you stick with it. Like we'll take it up a notch. But this is the part where you're experiencing life and finding out what you like and what you dislike and your creativity and things you want to learn. And so anytime they want a book, something they start talking about a lot, I'm like, here's the book. You do a deep dive on that, So
see how it tickles you.
What are some pitfalls people fall into when they're applying micro shifting? Maybe to like specifically to money habits?
I think still trying to make it too big a step. and no intentionality. Oh, I did this today. I made a baby step. Yeah, but is it connected to your outcome, or is it just a, because we can be busy and not productive, right? We can be micro shifting into nowhere or micro shifting in circles. So I feel ultimately it's a mix of, as long as the components that I brought forward, intentionality, consistency, and connecting to the vision and making sure I'm celebrating it, anchoring it in. If you're doing those, you're not going to really go wrong, I don't think. I mean, if you're falling off with any of those pieces, then there's a circular function, like I said, and going into nothing, and productivity with no busyness with no productivity. But if you're taking on board what I'm saying, which is, just be consistent, be deliberate, keep celebrating, keep moving forward, remembering that life is for living and not burning out, like you said, then you're going to be just fine.
I could see too, I'm guilty of not celebrating. Like again, just pushing past to like get to the next thing and be better and grow more or whatever. But I do see that now that that's super important to take that moment and recognize, hey, I did it. Like I made this big step and I should enjoy all that hard work that I put out. Do you feel like people start to add in micro steps? Like they're scared to get to the point? Because I could see that, like, oh, I want to write a book. Okay, well, I gotta get my journal.
Yeah.
I gotta get my pen. Like, I gotta get a typewriter. I gotta get like they keep just adding extra micro steps.
Then you're not microshifting, because microshifting is just what's in front of me. Then you're trying to get too far ahead. I connect with the end goal. What's the step that I know I can take now without resistance? Maybe it's just, and I've done this before with book projects, it's just making a folder on Google Drive. It's just making a thing with notes and just saying, okay, how many chapters do I feel like? 7. Make a few bullet points on one of the chapters. I'm going to do this. Have I got any source material? Do I need to do some research? And not even doing the research, just asking myself the question and writing down some things I'm going to research into. And then just feeding into, can I go a bit further? Yeah, I can go a bit further right now. I did this yesterday. The book that I'm planning to put out this year, I'm just like, I went over my notes. I didn't even do anything around it. I just went over the notes. I said, oh, hang on a minute. I can add that. Oh, hang on a minute. I can take that out. And that was it. I spent about 20 minutes on it. That's it. I didn't an hour a day of writing and blah, blah, blah. I think the second that I'm forcing myself to do something, I'm not really going to enjoy it anyway. The energy behind it's not going to be felt. But doing a project at a pace that feels good, like I said, I'm probably going to put this book out about October. That probably means I need to get it to an editor September-ish. Between now and then, I've got 7 months. I'm going to probably aim to get a draft done within the next 4 or 5 months. 7 sections, as long as I'm getting a section done every 3 or 4 weeks, I'm probably going to be okay. Something like that. There's going to be some source material. Another thing is how you execute. Sometimes I want to type, sometimes I just dictate and I get those transcribed and put into, making it easier for myself and give myself lots of breathing space to get it done. Then I find that the micro shifts they're just easy. It's like, okay, that's that. Oh, I feel like doing more today. Let's go and do it. I don't really feel like doing it. I do. And going from there.
When you said about the hour of writing, that's a good point because you could say, sit down to write for an hour. Yeah, you sat down for an hour, but did you really write for the whole hour? So you could probably get a lot more done in 20 minutes than you think. If you just tell yourself, hey, I'm all I have to do is write for 20 minutes, that doesn't seem as difficult as 1 hour. So I feel like that 20 minutes is going to be way more productive than the hour time.
I mean, when you look at habit building, obviously consistency needs to be there. And having a set time that you commit to doing something over a period of time probably is going to be really supportive in terms of building that habit. But setting up to go and do a habit that you've got no emotional relationship to, or where you don't have the leverage over yourself to make it happen, you're signing up for failure. Versus, okay, I know that I can spend 10 minutes with my book. It might not even be writing, but with my book a day. I can do that in the morning. I'm more effective in the evening. I'm more effective at night. Let me commit to at least 10 minutes. That's the minimum deliverable. Whether I'm researching, reading through what I've written, making some notes, or writing, that's what I'm going to do. Then once I'm doing that consistently and I'm starting to feel, I'm really enjoying this. I've got a bit of growth with this. My emotional relationship with it is such that I want to spend more time on it. Maybe then I'm going to jump on and do 20 minutes and then 30. And then I naturally evolve into spending 2 hours a day doing something that I love versus smashing myself over the head and not spending an hour a day doing something that I don't want to do.
And making yourself feel bad about yourself. I think that starts to get into a negative mindset. For people that do struggle What advice would you give them to get their mind right, to even get to the point that they can make that first micro step or micro shift?
What people I feel are served by is having the space to actually identify, is this my journey? And so what I love to encourage people to do is to create enough space to ask yourself, what is it that I want? And does this decision form a part of that? And if not, can I get the right support? Because very rarely will people do this by themselves. Can I find the right support, the right guidance, the right environment for me to be able to stick with this choice and go all the way, and then start making the micro shifts that align with that intention over time.
Thinking just that one thing that you said, is this something that I want? I don't think a lot of people really stop and think about that for a moment, what they're just tolerating in their life versus what they really want. So just that conscious thought.
Or instead of thinking what they want, they're focused on what they don't want, not recognizing that the brain doesn't know the difference between the two. I don't want this, I don't want this. The brain just hears, okay, more of this thing. let's get the reticular activating system schmoozing around for more of that, versus this is what I desire. It's more expansive, and it also actually gives me the focus of what I want versus being stuck in the muck of what I don't desire.
Do you have any last piece of advice for anybody that wants to get started in micro shifting? The one action step.
Clear intention. Number one, clear intention. And when you're looking at intention, don't look at it as things, look at it in how you will feel when the outcome's achieved. It'll make it much easier for you to resonate with it, much easier to step into the visualization of it, and also much easier for you to keep step with it as things start to come up. They're going to want to pull you off course.
Wonderful. I'm going to put lots of links in the show notes for everybody. I want to ask you a couple of quick random questions. What is one resource or tool that you use that makes your life easier?
Ooh.
Could be something very simple.
Do you know what? Notes on my watch. I use my Apple Watch more than anything now. It's like my Apple Watch is like my main watch now. It's just the notes function, a quick record. And then at the end of the day, one of my end of the day activities is to go over my notes, and it's a thing for me to do, and the ideas, and lay those out. Definitely the notes function.
I don't have an Apple Watch, but that sounds like a nice feature. Okay. What is your favorite book right now, or your favorite book of all time?
One of my Asperger's traits, I don't have any favorite things. So
is that okay?
I don't understand. Like, I literally, the idea of having a favorite thing doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I just learned something. Is that like,
I don't know if it's for everyone. I don't know if it's everyone, but definitely for me, because I don't get it. I have preferences from time to time, but they serve a function, because everything's ones and zeros, very binary for me. So something serves a function, and when it no longer serves that function, there'll be something else that will serve a function. That's how my brain works. But I do have 5 books that I live by, and I interrogate that on a regular basis. They're based on the 5 pillars for my life and how I want my life to look. And they're almost like the Bibles or the textbooks for those areas. So I've got The Science of Getting Rich for wealth and prosperity. I've got a book called Relating Revolution by 2 friends of mine, Chris and Meenal Kelkar, in relation to relationship. I have The Power of Now in terms of expansion and spirituality. I have The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer in terms of meaning and purpose. And in terms of personal power, The Way of the Superior Man by David Dada. So those are my go-to books. I read them once a year. I read whatever books are on my 5 books, but I challenge it every week, and I keep asking myself, is this still my book? Is this still my pillar? Is this still what I want my life to look like?
That's interesting. I like how you laid it out, that they're pillars. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, well, I'll be sure to link to those for everybody listening. Now it's time for game time, which is my favorite part of the podcast. Game time. I really should have music, game time music. You're right. Note to my editor, Steve, I need game time music to kick it off. Well, we'll see if you come back on the show if I have game time music.
I'll be tuned in.
Yes. Okay, so today we're going to play Pod Deck. So I've pulled 3 cards, and we're just going to start the conversation. Here it goes. First card, what weird food combinations do you really enjoy?
This is probably going to make you vomit a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
All right. I got this one from a friend of mine. Banana, hot sauce.
All right.
And tinned tuna.
No. That card was meant for you. That is a weird food combination.
But it's delicious. It's absolutely delicious.
Tuna.
And what I do is I get tuna in spring water, and then I drizzle some avocado oil over it.
Okay, that sounds delicious.
A spoon of avocado oil that goes in with a little hot, not too much hot sauce, just a little bit for some kick. and then you chop up the banana and you mix it. So you're not blending it, you're chopping the banana in pieces and mixing it all together. It's delicious.
I hope everybody listening tries it and just tag us on social media if you did it and tell us what you think.
It's yummy. If you just give it a try. I remember the first time I tried it, I was confused by what was going on. My mate tried to get me to do kip and tried to get me to do it with pineapple once as well. It was okay, but the banana's just yummy.
Is this like a super ripe banana or is this like a green banana?
No. You want a ripe banana.
Ripe. Okay. All right. Well, that you definitely answered that question. That was
unexpected.
What was impressive is how quickly you knew the answer.
Oh yeah,
you're like, I got one.
Like my wife looks at me, and my wife, especially when she was pregnant, she was eating some weird stuff. She just looks at me like, Daniel, I don't even want to see that.
Oh, yes. I'm going to do it in front of my husband and just see what he says.
Do it. Try it. You'll be like, oh my God, what's going on here? It's amazing.
Okay. I'm going to make it just the way you said it too. All right. Next one. What is something you hate, but you wish you loved?
Probably celebrities. I wish I could be more interested. I just wish I could care more about what they do. But I don't understand it. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Is this like what's Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? Do they fall in that category?
All of them. Why do you find them so interesting? I want to work with you on this. I want to care about Gigi Hadid and who's the other one? Who's she? And fun fact. So the girl I used to date, her housemate used to be in a relationship with a famous singer. And he used to go to celebrity parties, and we used to get a little bit of goss from the celebrity parties. I was like, oh, celeb. But then it was different because it's someone I knew that was like telling me a story about what he just...
It was real life.
Yeah, like Simon Cowell was there and this happened. And, oh, no, he didn't. And then it's like, with the news reel, was like, stop it. Stop doing it. I didn't ask about that Twitter. I don't really care. I don't follow them for a reason. Why are you giving me the things?
That's a good point. They do try to put it in front of your face. Do you have any superstitions?
Probably.
I read this card and I was like, I don't know if I have any right off the top of my head.
I felt my brain saying, we don't. So there's probably something.
Yes.
Do I have superstitions? I've got some that do you know what? They come up and I challenge them when they come up. So I had a thing for about 2 years, maybe more. I meditate at 3:30 in the morning every day. I got up at 3:30 in the morning, no matter what time. I mean, once I was with my friends in Seattle, we went out, I got back at 2:00 and I still woke up at 3:30 to do my morning practice.
That's commitment.
And then what I did was I realized that, I'd gotten a bit weird with it. So I stopped. It's like, this is just as weird. I stopped. So when I catch myself doing something, I tend to just do a hard break from it. Nothing's coming to mind right now, but if it did, I'd probably be stopping it.
I did have a friend that I used to wait tables at a restaurant and you couldn't get the broom near her feet. Sweeping around your feet was like a thing in her family. I guess it's a cultural thing. So I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't even know it. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. So I'm sorry if, I wasn't trying to get your feet.
I've seen some weird ones. I remember I lived in a house share, I don't know how many years ago, 2002 or something, 3 or something. And you weren't allowed, if you bought shoes for someone, because I remember he'd found some sneakers that I was looking for. I was like, if I send you the money, can you get them? And he wouldn't give you shoes. He'd put them down and you had to pick them up. You couldn't put hats on the bed. It was like, the hat was on the bed. Don't do it. It's like, all right, cool, whatever, mate. But I think my wiring means that something probably has to have some logical basis and kind of turns into a superstition versus me having like a direct superstition kind of sneak in. So most of the time, that's what's generally happened with me, I'd say.
That's good to be aware. Well, I appreciate you playing the game and being on the show. Can you tell everybody listening where they can learn more about you and what you're up to?
Ready? This is really complicated. Dreamwithdan.com. Oh my God. How are we going to do it? So dreamwithdan.com, all my stuff's there. I blog, 3-4 times a week on there. I just got made an executive contributor on Brains magazine. So we're going to be linking in articles there. Free resources section on the website, cool stuff. I've got like visualizations on there and other cool stuff. I've got an intention setting cheat sheet, which people might find interesting. My books, everything's on there. Dreamwithdan.com, easiest place to find me.
Wonderful. I'll be sure to put links in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much for coming on. It was really great to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thanks to good old Rocky for introducing this.
Thanks to Dan for coming on the show to talk about how making micro shifts can be an effective way to start making change in your life today. Thank you to Charles Schwab for providing support to the Military Money Show. To learn more about Charles Schwab and how they can help you reach your financial goals, visit schwab.com today. You can head over to lacylangford.com to get the show notes and resources. I appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you next week.